We're three best friends, and we love Lost, and we love talking, but even more so, we love talking about Lost. So join us for some laughs, good conversation, and let's get lost together. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Let's Get Lost. It's me, Kip, and I'm here with Theresa and Amanda, and this week, we're going to be talking about Walkabout, episode 4. Theresa is going to give us a synopsis.
All right, so episode 4, Walkabout, written by David Fury and directed by Jack Bender. A series of flashbacks reveals a secret that Locke has kept hidden from the other passengers. Meanwhile, the bodies inside the plane need to be disposed of. But how? Jack decides the most effective way of doing so, but it's grisly. When the castaways realize that the food supply is running out, Locke has a suggestion.
Amazing. And so just a few facts about this week's episode.
Thanks, Theresa.
Amazing.
Was that mean?
No, it wasn't mean.
It was just weird.
It was just a very
Like
harsh.
It was weird.
I'm going to finish what you're doing and we're moving on to me now. Yeah.
Well, I just want to get through it.
Firm
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not usually the one who comes on and it says
That's
stuff
true.
after. I'm usually the one who says that.
This is all over the
Kip
place today.
screwed it up. Okay.
And Matt is going to give us some factoids.
Amazing.
First, maybe we should say that we have a fourth person with us today.
Oh, no, I figured you guys would just leave me to introduce myself because that's what good hosts do, right?
Oh, okay. Well, Kip just didn't mention you at all. So,
I thought we would save that. I totally forgot.
yeah. Well,
So
I just think there's
forgettable.
this weird laugh in the background of some of this stuff. So 18 million people watched this episode. It has a 9.1 out of 10 rating on IMDb. This episode covers days 4 to 5 on the island. Sawyer had a very dismal nickname count in this episode, coming up with only one, that being Metro.
And who was that directed towards?
Do you not know?
No,
It's Boone.
Boone.
No, it was Jack.
No, it was Boone.
It was Jack.
It was Boone.
No, because Jack had the scarf on, didn't he?
No, it was Boone because Boone comes in to break up the fight right away between him and Hurley. He says, "Stay out of this, Metro." And then Jack comes running in. I'm 99% sure.
I have no idea.
And in case anyone is wondering who that ominous fourth voice is, it's Rory.
Well, I think we can give him a better intro than that.
No, I don't think so. That's pretty good.
No, we'll have to.
Dang it.
Okay, you guys, so far this is not going.
I think it's going great.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a lot of
There's
editing.
life.
Comment below if you think that Metro was directed at Boone or Jack. But Kip is really giving me, I'm really feeling Kip's response. Rory can't really back his up at all. The other thing is, not only is Sawyer now giving people nicknames, it's leaked over to the other cast members. So Shannon calls Boone Captain America, and Hurley calls Sawyer Jethro.
Jethro's a good one.
That's a good one. The runtime of this episode is 42 minutes and 42 seconds.
Oh.
And because we were talking about this last week, Kip did his homework after. And if you recall from last week, we were talking about whether anyone famous came up with a audition for any of the roles. And Kip was able to find that Yun Jun Kim, who plays Sun, had originally auditioned for the role of Kate. And so that is very important to know. Yeah, so before we get into the episode and we get into some trivia from our dear friend Kipper, we'll give you a better intro for this. For this week, we do have a special guest. His name is Rory. Rory is our friend. And he is another person who was very into watching Lost back in the day. And I think we've mentioned before that he's actually the one who got Theresa and I into watching it, but Kip got him into watching it. So that's kind of a full circle kind of moment
And
here.
Rory, and that is why you should respect what I say.
No. The wiki says that it was Jack who was called Metro. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Okay, well, I will pull up the clip.
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
good.
Great. Great. I imagine all of this is getting edited out.
No.
No,
Oh, okay.
It all-
it's very serious.
We don't edit this podcast.
This is live. Rory would be our Locke expert, would you say?
Yes.
Or
Lockspert,
more
if you
fanatic?
will.
A
Fanatic.
Lockspert. I like that.
Lockspert.
I
Lockspert.
prefer fanatic.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more on brand with
He's just a really great character. I mean, there's no flaws or...
fanatic.
Okay.
It is.
I don't know. We've actually discovered a very deep flaw in Locke. He clearly does not have taste buds, because not only does he do that creepy orange smile, but afterwards he ingests the peel into his mouth and starts to chomp in on the orange rind.
Everyone loves the
chewing
zest.
the rind.
Yeah, everyone
No
loves
one
the zest.
No
does
one
that.
eats the rind.
Oh my goodness.
Do you know who does that?
Freaks.
Sociopaths.
Yeah, he has a box full of knives.
But he checked them.
That's important.
Yeah.
So yes, Rory is our resident Locke expert. We will actually add to our social media page such an Locke expert that one Halloween he dressed up as Locke for a party that Kip, Rory, and I threw, where he dressed up as Locke. And I mean, I don't know, I'm hesitant to show what I dressed up as because it was also Lost related, but it's more of a season 6 surprise.
Yeah, we'll have to
So
blank
we'll
you
have
out.
to blank myself out. But you can see that Rory dressed up as actually the infamous Locke we're talking about.
Yeah.
The orange peel and everything.
Yeah, Walkabout Locke is,
Your hero.
yeah. Well, all Locks are.
All right. And Theresa has found out whether
Who's right.
Before we do it,
your
everyone
money
put their
down.
money in the comments on who you believe. Are you team Rory, who thinks it was Jack that Sawyer called Metro, or are you team Kip, who thinks it was Boone that he called Metro?
Well, I mean, Amanda, what's your? You're the only one who could vote. I've seen it, so I know what the
I
answer
have
is.
no idea.
You have to pick one.
I don't know. I feel like Kip was very...
Kip's very on everything. Don't.
I know, he's got very strong personalities.
I don't need to be very because I'm right.
You looked at a Wikipedia page, though.
Anyone
remembered
could
it.
edit it. You probably edited it before you showed it to
Yeah.
me.
I was all right. Well, let's
Sorry,
see the clip.
Rory. I
right,
have to side with my co-host and Locke non-defender. Wait, before I pick, Rory, where do you fall on Kate?
Yeah, this will be.
I don't mind Kate.
Okay, Kip, you are the winner in my mind, no matter
No
what
matter
happens.
what.
She's not the
after.
best character, but she's not the worst.
Okay, who is it? Let's see.
I'm not gonna put the sound on because I copyright. I think, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Hurley and Sawyer are fighting. Jack says, "Knock it off." He
That's
calls him
Boone,
pork pie.
right there.
It is Boone.
That was Boone first.
No.
Yeah, it was
no
Boone.
way.
It was Boone.
I mean, the scarf does seem very Metro.
But he's the one who comes in.
Yeah,
and then
see,
he
that
looks
was
at,
Boone.
It's Boone.
Okay, I think we have to put the sound on. It's less than 15
Yeah.
seconds. We're good. Let's redo this whole thing because I think we need the sound on to really.
No, it's Boone. You can click.
Knock it off. Stay out of this, Metro. Hey, freak.
See, Boone says, knock it off.
That's Boone. You know. Guys, knock it off.
See, that's Boone's voice.
That is Boone.
Pork pie. Guys, knock it off. Stay out of this, Metro. Hey.
Oh.
All right.
You know why you were wrong? Because you like Locke and Kate. And so you'll never be right. Karma.
Also, hold on. Doesn't he call him pork pie just
Yeah, it
then?
looks like
What?
that was terrifying. Kip
Just like
missed
Locke.
pork pie as one of Sawyer's nicknames.
Oh, okay. I was trying to listen. I listened so carefully this morning and I couldn't make out what he was saying.
Pork pie.
And I couldn't load the subtitles.
Yeah, so
okay,
pork pie, which is awful,
Yeah.
by the way. Metro's not great either. Sawyer's kind of a dick. All right, wow. Okay,
So
Rory.
tack one up to,
Can you please adjust the wiki page?
yeah, that you clearly changed.
I don't have that sort of power.
You must.
No, it's hard to believe, but I actually don't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to submit
Okay, well,
an
well,
edit to.
As Let's Get Lost hosts, we should have
think so.
editing power.
Probably.
Yeah.
For the 6 people, including 4 of us who listen to this podcast.
We're going to get into the official trivia for today's episode.
All right. So, Rory, as you're new to the podcast, what we'd like to do is I'll read trivia. And if you think you have the question, or the answer, I mean, you have to make a Lost-related sound effect to as your buzzer, per se.
You don't have to tell us what it is, but
No,
you just
got to do it.
You have something that you can do in your mind?
I think I can do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Question number 1. What was the episode originally going to be called?
Crickets.
Wow.
Crickets.
Something
the
not as
first
good as
time.
Walkabout, obviously.
Lord of the Files.
That's awful.
Oh, no, I like that. Because he's like this like dorky
Yeah.
manager guy.
I prefer
Not a manager.
Walkabout.
Whatever he is, he's less than a manager. He's a loser. Lord of the losers is what
He was
this
running a very covert operation during his lunch break. How dare you?
Yeah, that game. Actually, I did make a note on how disgusting his apartment looked.
Yeah, it's-
Ooh, I paused and even went over all the dirty food containers. Like, good Lord, Locke, get it together.
Can't walk. It's hard to clean up stuff. Don't blame him.
Spoiler alert.
I'm assuming if they're watching this, they've seen the episode, right?
Question number 2.
All right.
Which sub-character turns up in a future season episode? I should say which character from the flashback turns up in a future season episode. Yep.
Helen.
That's not the answer I have. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but
What is what?
Wait,
does anyone else have?
wait. Let me think.
My name is Henry Gale.
So good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And that is such a little
That's
Easter
good,
egg
yeah.
for those who.
oh, I like it.
Okay. Do you know the answer though?
No, I don't think I know the answer. Absolutely not.
Randy?
Randy,
Oh.
Locke's shitty boss.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Let me buzz in with my actual.
Oh, yeah.
Walt. I'd like to submit Randy as an
Correct.
answer.
Yeah.
What
Walt's
else is
shitty boss
Randy in?
comes back later in season 2 as someone else's opposite of boss employee.
Oh.
Someone who's on the island. Little teaser for you.
Okay.
Something to look
All right.
forward
It
to.
gets complicated, guys. It gets complicated.
A lot of connections.
All connected.
So it's just a couple other trivia pieces about this episode. The crash scene was actually completely rebuilt and refilmed for the flashbacks on this episode because it was 6 months or so after they filmed the pilots.
Oh.
And they had to react all those like screams and
Oh, God. Wow.
Jeez.
Dedication.
yeah. And the boars. So second trivia point here, the boars, they tried to get live boars. And that was the plan, to have live boars in, but they were actually just too cute and no one was scared of them. So they had to make them CGI boars because they weren't
Those were
scary.
worse.
Yeah, and they were
They're like,
horrifying.
they're our friends.
Those sounds they make, I don't know if those are real boar sounds.
I didn't think so. Like, even watching it the first time when, like, you know, it's an animal. Like, at that point, you know, it's not like the monster or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is that? Like,
It was like a weird
it
sound.
wasn't good.
You know, when it hits the eyes for the first time, you're sort of like, huh? And then it makes the noise, like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, no, even just like they're moving around in the plane. Like, it seems
You mean the fuselage?
the fuselage. Yeah.
That's the trivia.
Very interesting. Very interesting. All right, so let's get into the
Okay.
episode. Yes, the Locke-centric episode, and Rory is here because we are concerned that on these particular episodes, the three of us won't give Locke the dues that he has maybe earned.
Most
some of the
definitely has
fandom.
earned.
Well, I'll just say the first few episodes, so the first 3 episodes that we've seen, I don't think he's really earned anything yet because he's really hasn't been in it other
and-
than those really creepy moments.
And he's creepy,
Yeah.
quite candidly, like, Rory, honestly, for a second here, remove yourself from what you know. Like,
Future.
put yourself back in the shoes of having just watched this episode for the first time, having only known of Locke what you've seen in the first 3 episodes. You cannot convince me that you loved him as much as you do now then.
In the time, I thought he was going to be quite the antagonist. Like, they were sort of like leaning into that, right? That he was going to be this like manipulative antagonist on the island that used his sort of like squeaky, I'm an comfortable old man image to sort of lure people into doing things they probably shouldn't be doing.
Like, you mean like with Walt in the game and the whistle, like the dog whistle?
Yeah, like he was a survival expert, kind of like more so than most of the people on the island.
But we didn't really know that other than he could whittle a whistle and he knew how to play an ancient game.
Yeah.
That's really the only interactions we knew about him.
Well,
the first 3 episodes.
It's sort of just building. They were sort of. It felt like they were building him up to be an antagonist, which are usually the most interesting characters on any show.
Yeah. And to be fair to Rory, I remember a lot of people loving Locke right from the get-go. I think it's the bald and the scar.
Well, I do think they do a good job, and this is something I do think is really impressive that the writers and directors and everyone, producers, everyone does, is they really do subvert expectation very quickly. Like, he is built up to kind of be menacing in the first 3 episodes, and then right away, by the end of this, you're like, okay, he's really capable in some ways, but he's a loser, right? Like, and he's like not what you expect him to be.
Absolutely. And that was the whole point of his flashbacks, was to show this person who was complete opposite of this cool survivalist hunter guy who's on the island now. In his flashback, right before he went to Australia, he was this loser who no one respected him. He thought his phone sex caller was his girlfriend in reality. Like, I mean, you can't deny that, Rory.
But he was a loser?
Well, that's how they were portraying him.
I think they were portraying him as a broken person, and it reflected the fact that his legs were unusable, right? Like, it was a man, like a mirror image of the fact that he was just a broken man in general. So his life was broken, and he didn't have the confidence to do all those things that made him so amazing on the island.
Yeah, but we also didn't really know how broken he was. We were just seeing this guy whose boss didn't respect him. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a girlfriend. His apartment was a disgusting mess.
Something that Kip has just realized is one of his biggest fatal flaws.
Like, I mean, it was gross. I paused it.
What I do think is interesting is, like, because you say you don't think he had the confidence. I think he did have the confidence. It's just that he didn't have the ability. And now, and part of it was like, he's clearly held back. And you see this like going forward in Locke's storyline. He's held back a lot by like the people around him and his circumstances. And so I think what's interesting about his character is that on the island, you know, now that we see at the end of the episode that he can walk when he should not be able to, is he kind of gets like this clean slate of like, you know, no one knows that I can't do these things, so I'll just do them. Right. Which I think is interesting.
Totally. Because they even make a point of saying they don't know whose wheelchair it was, or whoever it was is better off than us. So they assume that they're dead. And
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of like
in reality,
leads into last week.
It's more alive than he's ever been.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because like they talk about in Kate's episode, like it's called tabula rasa,
yeah.
and this
Clean
whole idea of a clean slate. But really, like Locke is probably the one who gets the cleanest slate out of anyone, followed maybe by eventually Jin and Sun. But yeah, it's very like Kate doesn't use her clean slate very well.
No.
Neither does Sawyer. Right? Sawyer more so in the end, but Kate is just so fucking useless. that
Is this how the podcast goes generally?
This is typically
It
how
just like drifts towards Kate,
That's a lot of
and then
I
it's just
think-
Amanda bashing her for 10 minutes.
No,
It's Kate hate.
it's not Kate hate, but I just mean like when you look at someone who, you know, she kind of she's wants to do what Locke's doing, right? Like she wants to kind of get away from her past, but she does a terrible job of it. Where Locke has completely reinvented himself within 4 days of being on this island.
Yeah.
I think with Kate, that's just the way she is, though. Like, I don't know. They talk a lot about Kate's personality, and I think in season 2, when they're like, I don't want to spoil anything, but
Yes, listeners, we did spoil that Kate makes it to season 2. I'm as disappointed as everyone else listening, but it is what it is. We just have to all live with it.
But I mean, it's just a lot of the story revolves around like taking who you are and trying to either better yourself or just being dragged into that quagmire of your past experiences and your past self. And just some people get away from it, some people don't.
Well, and that's a big theme, right? Because you can almost draw a line down the middle of the cast and the characters of who is able to and who isn't. And we won't obviously get into any of that, but it's interesting. If you haven't watched it yet, keep that in mind while you're watching it. Exactly what Rory said was, are people able to take that clean slate and run with it and reinvent the issues that they have? Or are you essentially always going to be like
The
subject
person
to
you
that?
were in the flashbacks.
Right? Like who grows from it and who, you know, reinforces it. And it's very interesting, I think, to see where some people come down on that.
So before we go into all the Locke talk, let's just maybe
Great
discuss,
section name.
let's maybe go over some of the subplots that happened during this episode, some of the non-Locke flashback related things. So we have Kate helping Saeed.
We have the food.
Oh, the food.
And that's what starts off the whole Metro argument was that scene, and it comes from Hurley and Sawyer fighting over food because Sawyer thinks that Hurley is
Eating it all, essentially.
and they're essentially out of food at this point.
Never change.
Never.
Like, so it's day 4 we've determined, and they're out of food.
They're out of food. So, yeah, it's a big problem. And obviously tensions are going to flare up when you find out you have nothing left to eat, except for urchins that Jin catches. Mm-hmm. And it kind of is a funny moment where you see it's leading up from Boone and Shannon arguing about Shannon being able to take care of herself. And she clearly can't. Or can she, by basically manipulating other people, in this case, Charlie, to catch a fish for her, who then uses Hurley to catch a fish for him to give to Shannon.
Which is super funny because I think Boone's whole point, without maybe completely saying it, was all you have going for you is your looks and your ability to manipulate people. And you can't do that here. You can't flirt with the host of the club to get priority access, and you can't, flirt with the guy to buy you like clothes and things like that kind of stuff. I think is what he's hinting at, right? Yeah. That she can't do, which is why it's hilarious that she's like, bullshit, I can't. Like, I can do that anywhere I am. Yeah, and exactly. She does. Like, Shannon uses what she knows how to use to get what she wants. I don't know. It's like the only said
for Kate, though.
Nothing good can be said of her. At least Shannon's always kind of true to who she is, right?
But
I kind of respect
being
that.
Untrue be true to who Kate is.
Okay. This is not a Kate episode.
I wish there never were. but the point is that, like, I was almost impressed, like, because I don't like Shannon either. I don't think anyone's really meant to like Shannon, but I kind of respected her a little bit in that moment because I'm like, you know what? She's doing what she knows how to do, and it's kind of hilarious.
And it was kind of funny to see her kind of like not give a shit who Charlie was, because he immediately goes, yeah, I was waiting for you to ask. Yes, I was in drive shaft. And she's like, I don't fucking care about that.
Yeah.
I'm 19. I don't know what a drive shaft is. Yeah.
So that was interesting. But yeah, that leads kind of, and then the Saeed and Kate thing, that little subplot does lead into how she gets hooked up with going on that search party. So eventually they decide, after realizing they don't have food, that's when the knives come out, and we find out that Locke's gonna hunt boars, and that leads to this like weird little search party.
It was a really cool scene though when they
so
say,
cool.
how are we gonna get food? We're hunt.
I love it. Jack's like, you either have really good aim or really bad aim.
Right beside Sawyer's face.
Yeah, I liked that.
And he does not say anyway. He's like, doesn't say, oh, really bad aim.
No, exactly. He just leaves that hanging there.
Yeah.
Well, Locke is really good for stuff like that, though. It's like he's got kind of like a less is more when it comes to
very
explaining.
laconic.
Yeah. I do like him. I just wish he was cooler.
He's so cool. What are you talking about?
In all aspects of his story. I don't dislike the character. I just think that it's I don't think he's as cool as Rory thinks he is, and I never did.
I think with Locke, you really he's more than almost any other character on the show. You need to take his entire performance across the series, because there's a few people, like, he goes through a lot of highs and lows, which is really him combating his past compared to where he is now. And he has a couple moments that are like very like he's insecure and unsure of if what he's been doing this whole time is true or not. But
also there's the side story, and it kind of, maybe we can talk about it later too, but the side story of Jack coming to terms with like his leadership on the island, but then that bleeds a little bit into next week's episode too, of what he starts seeing at the end of this episode. So
and because we do get this other kind of side. There's actually a lot, as much as it's like a Locke episode and we get a lot with Locke, there's actually a lot going on in this episode, because we do get that side storyline of like the reason the boar are in the fuselage is because there's, not to be gross or vulgar, but there's a bunch of dead bodies in there.
Yeah, just a lot of corpses.
Right.
And it was actually funny because when Theresa was reading the introduction, she said, Jack has a grisly idea. I'm like, was it really that grisly? It sounds like, I think it's more grisly to pull the corpses out of there, like try to bury them, like just.
I agree.
Yeah.
It wasn't
less, like, practicality wise. I understand they all have their different religious, ideologies and stuff. So maybe it's not great for all of them, but for practical purposes, probably the best decision.
And like he says, is it more respectful to leave them to be eaten by wild animals? Because people are saying to Jack, well, it's not very respectful just to burn all those bodies. What's the alternative?
Yeah. Exactly. No, he was right to suggest that. And
he's got an ulterior motive too. with the fire to hopefully be a signal beacon.
I know, I love that when they're like, wait till at night or whatever, and then why? And, you know, it's like so that someone may see it, right? And that's the thing is Jack is always kind of coming up with these ideas. Jack is always running into these fights. He's always putting himself in the middle. But then as soon as he's like kind of confronted with like, you know, and we've said it before, and I'll say it probably every Jack-centric episode until the finale, but this like reluctant hero thing is Jack's burden, right? Because he runs into the middle of these fights and he suggests these kind of like outrageous, in quotation marks, ideas of how to deal with things. But then as soon as it's like, okay, well then can you lead the service? It's like, well, no, like, why should I have to lead it kind of thing, right? It's like, well, you've presented yourself as being the person that they've come to rely on for these things. So you can't really be that surprised when then this like adorable pregnant lady's like, well, can you lead the, you know, and
Yeah, I completely agree. But I also think there's something about, as a leader, you should be able to delegate. So he needs to find a better way to say it, of course, because it can't just be rude to Claire being like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. Like, yeah, why don't you do it? Yeah, go for it. Like kind of a dick move. But he could just say, you know what? I'm not comfortable with that. I think that's great if you want to do that and I can help. But like, you're right. The way he does it is not a very like leaderish way.
And it's the same with when Boone's like, you need to go talk to Rose,
Right.
or I don't know if we know her name at that point or not, but when he's like, you need to go talk to her. She hasn't eaten. She's just sitting there, this and that. And he's like, well, why do I have to go there again? And you can tell like it's his like default, like, it's not my responsibility to do everything. But then Boone's like, well, you saved her life.
Yeah,
like, and
exactly.
so Boone kind of comes back with this, like, it's not because we think you're the leader, dude. It's because like you saved her bloody life. Like, and he's like, oh, okay. You know,
Also, like, Jack, you were sitting next to her on the plane. Like, wouldn't you also feel like a little bit of a connection? Be like, you know what? In this plane crash, we were sitting next to each other and we kind of had this little banter back and forth.
Yeah.
But no, apparently he didn't care.
I just can't wait to see you say that Jack is a hero after watching Stranger in a Strange Land. That's going to be great.
in my mind, that episode doesn't happen. I have mixed feelings on Jack too. Like, I love him, but I also think that he has obviously problems. Clearly, they all have issues that they're going to be working through. But I at least think that, you know, Jack, I think he resolves a lot more of his issues than
Well, I think
other
it's
characters.
important that they all have issues, right? For the grand scheme of things. Like,
Well, yeah.
not to get too much into spoilers, but the perfect person isn't going to be on the island. Like,
Well, and also, like, you can't have a show of perfect people. Like, just from a purely entertaining perspective, you have to go back and forth a little bit with your characters so that there's actually conflict.
but Locke is in there.
Okay.
Flawed human.
Flawed human.
Well, the human thing was a nice touch. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they get this. So Claire and some others are working on this
Like, memorial?
yeah. And she's so adorable in this episode. Like, I don't know how anyone could not like Claire. Like,
She's good.
she's
so
obviously
sweet.
not going to be probably anyone's like top favorite character, but Claire and Hurley are the kind of characters that like, you can't tell me you don't have some affection for these
Yeah.
guys. They're so sweet. And so she's doing this and she's doing such a cute little job of trying to get all this stuff together.
Yeah, it was really cute. And even Sawyer buys into it by bringing, like, the passports, I think, or something
That he had taken.
that taken. And he's like, here, I thought you might want these, you
That
know.
was
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah, like, even
Yeah.
Sawyer buys into it. But I kind of have a feeling Claire's going to rank pretty high on Teresa's ranking this week.
Yeah. And then while that's happening, we have this little hunting party that develops with Michael
Don't get me
and
started.
Kate and Locke.
So for as much as Amanda hates Kate, Theresa is on par with her hatred for Michael, apparently.
I didn't realize it until watching the show. And I'd like to think that maybe it's just like, you know, triggered by my like own issues with my father. But like Michael, like for God's sake, he just lost his mother. He barely knows you. And your idea is to play the hero, the incapable hero.
Yeah.
By the way, you have zero skills. And you're going to wander into the woods with a guy who has a bunch of knives and a girl who climbs. Fantastic.
It wasn't very responsible.
No,
like, for sure.
I can't stand like he wants Walt to respect him. Is this the way to do it? Like, no.
He doesn't know.
Well, what else does a little boy respect, though?
Yeah, he
Well, I don't
clearly
know.
thought the
Maybe if
knives
he
were
actually
cool.
talked to him. I'm sorry. There's no way.
At least
that-
Mr. Locke talks to me.
Well, exactly. But it's true though. And like even Son talks to Michael Moore and like, or not Michael, Walt Moore, right? And they don't even speak the same language.
Walt! Walt! Walt!
That was the wrong one, actually.
Also, like, why is Michael asking son the
Only person.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? He's
exactly.
like, can you? And he's like signing at her, and it's just kind of like,
So
okay, well,
stupid.
why don't you ask the pregnant lady?
Yeah, she's going to need some practice.
Why don't you ask anybody else?
Although
other
he
than
learned
the
how to
two-
brush his teeth with aloe. I think that was this episode,
Yeah,
right?
that was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That being said, it's so funny to me because like Michael's clearly like, well, I know she has boobs, so like,
Exactly.
she
It's like,
must-
I saw her breasts, so
Yeah.
she'd be great at watching my children. Like, what?
Oh, lost love triangles.
Oh my God. There's
Never
so many.
change.
Never change.
I cannot, like, you're right. And Amanda's hate for Kate is the same as my hate for Michael.
Well, if it makes you feel better, at least Evangeline Lilly has like somewhat established herself after this as like having some sort of range, even though I also hate her. But the guy that plays Michael,
Harold
Harold,
Perino?
Perino, I think.
is a complete and utter dick in
he?
every character he plays.
Oh, in
after
every
this.
character.
I don't know what I only know him out of this.
And I think it's because like you just can't. Like he was on The Rookie, and I told Rory from episode 1.
Is
he's
this a
gonna be
rookie
bad-
podcast? Are we talking about
He's
Nathan
gonna be a
Fillion now?
bad guy. And Rory's like, no, he's not. He's just his buddy. And I'm
He's
like,
just looking for his son.
In The Rookie too.
Like, wait, what?
Well,
he's
in
really typecast.
he only is able to scream names. Well, and he's in a new show with Abrams and Cuse, or at least Cuse, I think, and Lindelof. Or
It's probably the bad guy again.
They probably feel bad that they have like ruined his career by making
With
him
this
such an
writing.
asshole that they're like,
Exactly.
we'll give you another role. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
no, I mean, there's you're right. There's lots going on in the episode, and I remember reading, or I was reading before this, that it was sort of according to reviewers and like critics after it aired, that it was sort of the pivotal Lost episode, that it showed that it could stand on all these multiple facets. Like there's so many characters that are doing things. There's also the Locke moment or whatever, where this was like the episode that they knew this concept would work with, like a twist ending that wasn't actually explained, and people would enjoy it.
and I think it's the first very overt, like, part where you realize that there is something more going on here.
Yeah.
Like you do get that with the monster. Again, we call it the monster here, Rory, because we don't want to, ruin anything. But the monster is clearly like more than just like a bear or something,
Yeah.
right? And we have the polar bear. Like there's been these kind of hints of like there is clearly something more going on here. But I think when we find out that someone who couldn't walk
Yeah.
can hear, there's for sure something very mythical like going on here, right?
He saw into the eye of the island. It was beautiful.
Well, and that's because in this episode he has an encounter with the monster at the endish kind of time, and his direction was, I listened to the audio commentary. The direction was, it's very tall, and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, because we can't see the monster, but that's what Terry O'Quinn was told to react how to
Yeah, and they didn't show him anything, right? Like
No,
he
no.
was reacting to nothing.
nothing.
Imagine there was a camera on a pole.
Well, yeah, or something. Right?
Clearly,
But like there wasn't like he was presented with
Most
anything.
beautiful camera.
He's like, I see myself.
oh,
Yeah. So I mean, it's very clear. Yeah, and the fact that Michael gets hurt and this and that, and then Locke, yeah, is, and they say like he's dead. Like the monster went up to him, and we're kind of jumping around, but that part is very telling, right? Like,
let's go around the table. Your top moment from the episode, not Locke centric. Amanda first.
I actually think it's when Claire is doing the little memorial at the end, and she talks about how the one couple was organ donors. Like, and she's just like, that scene is so sweet to me. Like, she knows nothing about them, and that's very clear, but she's just like, I'm going to find something. They're organ donors. And like, to her, that means they're good people. Right. And just as this moment, like, oh, they were organ donors. And like reading about the people who are planning a wedding, like I just, that whole scene is just so beautiful to me. Like, she doesn't have to do that.
No, and I like the one person who found his like receipt from Blockbuster, and it was, I think, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you owed late dues on or whatever.
That was sweet.
Right, like she's just this idea that she's like trying to find anything and just like pin to make it just more meaningful than just like saying
Burning
these people
bodies.
died.
Yeah, exactly.
We're burning them so that more boars aren't attracted to kill us all, right? Like,
Yeah.
I just think to me, like Claire will always be like very high in my like ranking. She's never going to have the like effect on me that like other characters will, but I always have affection for her. She's just so freaking adorable.
Mine is when Jack and Rose are talking to each other, and she's like, I can't remember what she says, but she's saying that like her husband's alive, and Jack's like, they're all dead, and he's like, that's what they're probably thinking about us. It was just like a mic drop moment that like gave me chills everywhere. So I was like, all right.
That part is so impactful.
Yeah.
That part's very impactful.
Yeah, it's my favorite part too, though. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's,
Really?
Yeah. Anytime Rose talks, pretty much, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, I can see that.
But it's so
nice.
it's so true, and like it's just again, it's just like Jack is so like he has such tunnel vision about what's happening on this island, and he's very practical, and that makes sense, right? And that's another major theme throughout the show is that Jack is a practical man of science who believes in what he can see and feel and touch and experience, and nothing beyond that.
Nothing else.
Whereas he's finding out that he's surrounded by people who have hope and faith and
And different-
dreams
yeah.
and
Think differently from him.
beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's
No.
Well, it's so funny too because he says, Rose, he was in the rear of the plane. It broke off in midair. There's no way that they could have survived. And I'm thinking, Jack,
Your
you were
plane
in the
was in midair.
front. You were also in
broke
midair. Like,
It's not like you landed safely with the tires. Like, what
yeah,
do you
like,
mean?
we're just making this emergency landing. Like you woke up in the middle of the woods,
unexplained.
like, and walked onto a scene of fire and burning and screaming.
Don't be ridiculous, Rose.
But that's one of the key scenes of
Yeah.
showing like that's all Jack is capable of. He's such a capable person, but he'll never be able to take them beyond that. And that is something that for those who haven't, it's not really a spoiler because it's clearly happening now, but that is very difficult for Jack to reconcile.
Yeah.
And for the people around him too, because yeah, you're on day 4 and you fine, whatever, this and that, but like maybe we'll still get saved. And the longer they're there, the more, and right now it is important to keep them alive and tend to their wounds and get them fed and find them shelter. But when it's going to come down to it where they're going to need more than that.
The next episode is White Rabbit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure is.
So and that scene between Locke and Jack in that episode, I don't want to get ahead of myself, is probably one of my favorite in the entire season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
So is
What's
your moment is Rose and Jack
Yeah,
talking on
Rose
the
and
beach?
Jack. Yeah. Just sort of like he will have to deal with a lot of that from Locke in the future. Like sort of that like you're not like a man of faith. You need to sort of like open your eyes and be willing to like accept things. But I think it sort of starts here with Rose, and she's like a lot softer, a lot easier to sort of deal with. Like she's not forcing it on him. She's just like, hey, sometimes things aren't what they seem. You just need to have faith that everything will be fine.
Very true. Whereas like other characters, just like beat Jack over the head with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Rose doesn't beat anyone over the head with anything. She's just like, I don't give a, you can believe what you want. I'm just sitting here. You came up to me, right?
Exactly. Yeah. no.
So it's
I love
what about
Rose.
you? What's your favorite?
Mine would be Charlie and Hurley fishing. It's so funny. Like I love them as the comedic duo.
Their friendship is just like there's some very anyone who's kept up with any, and I mean like there's some spoilers that are not really spoilers because the show's been on off the air for 10 years and but there's some like very epic things I think that even if you haven't watched the show you know of, and there's certain relationships that are very key, but the friendship between Hurley and Charlie is a good one, and it's very sweet, and I think
It was nice to have those like laugh out moments, laugh out loud moments. So, well, good. Now, should we get into the lock talk?
Yes, Lock Talk.
Lock talk.
Lock talk.
2K22.
So we kind of already touched a little bit upon what's probably the most important one, which is that kind of opening knife. So Rory, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does that scene turn you on?
Turn me on?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured as much.
Yeah, I had to change my underwear after for sure.
All right.
But I just think it's like a nice first, like you see him being all creepy leading up to it. And then you find he has a box of knives. You're like, oh, he's really creepy. And then the flashbacks start and you're like, oh, okay. So who is this person? What changed? And it sort of like leads up to that. And the thing that's so great about Walkabout is that you really need to watch it twice to really be like, oh, they were hinting at it the whole time.
Yeah, the not walking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about because when we were watching it this most recent time, and you don't like, because I felt almost like bamboozled the first time I watched it, being like, oh wow, and like there's lots of examples of that in media, right, where they, but yeah, you don't really, and with him kind of, and I was talking to Theresa about this when we were watching it because we rewatched this particular episode together, and I think what's the best about it is the whole episode they keep alluding to, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I personally took that to be kind of like ageist. Like I thought they were kind of like, oh, well, you're just like this old man that sits at a desk all day. That's why you can't do it. But in reality, and I'm like, wow, these guys are kind of assholes. But then when you think about it, you're like, well, it's not that crazy that they're telling a man in a wheelchair, you know, don't get me wrong. I don't think you should tell anyone. I think lots of people are capable of lots of things, but I can see why some people might be a little bit more skeptical about what he's trying to endeavor to do. Still very rude to say he can't, but particularly it becomes obvious when he uses that example of the man climbing Mount Everest, right?
Which, by the way, isn't true.
What?
Oh.
Norman Croucher did not climb Mount Everest. He was a double amputee, but he didn't climb Mount Everest.
Why would they say that?
Yeah.
He did something else. Not mountaineering. Maybe
But
it
something impressive.
something pretty impressive.
Oh,
but
yeah.
not
Like
Mount
swam the
Everest.
English Channel probably, right?
You know, I don't remember what it was. Should find out. But like, yeah, that was kind of a weird thing to make up.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because like again, these are little hints that you're just kind of like, oh, he's using an example of someone incredible doing something incredible.
That's right.
It doesn't. But when you like these little kind of like levels of it, like you said, when you watch again, you're like, oh, of course he used that as an example.
Well, I think it's very like, especially when you see the scene with him in his filthy apartment, talking to Helen, like just the way he's sitting with his like legs. Like I don't know too many people who actually just sit like that comfortably in their bed. Like,
yeah.
you know, like you lounge on a couch, but he doesn't really have that option kind of. So I think it's pretty obvious there.
Okay, so pretty impressive. While he did not climb Mount Everest, Norman Croucher did a 900-mile walk to Land's End. Not sure where that is, but he also climbed the Matterhorn in Switzerland and several peaks in the Himalayas.
Well, perhaps the Matterhorn
Not
is
Everest.
trademarked. And you had to switch it to ABC couldn't get the rights to Matterhorn.
Maybe.
And they had to get the rights.
But they got
to
Everest. Good for them.
They got Everest.
The actual double amputee who climbed Mount Everest was a New Zealander named Mark Inglis. Shout out, Mark.
So why wouldn't we was it after the show aired maybe?
I don't know. It didn't say the date.
But I mean, let's give credit where credit's due. Mark Inglis, who climbed Mount Everest. Other guy.
Is it becoming a Mark Inglis podcast now?
Yeah, Norman Croucher climbed the Matterhorn, and John Locke accomplished very little.
Wow.
That's not true. He got a bore for people.
That's
Also,
true.
he
It's not
can't-
about what you do. Sometimes it's about who you help.
But also, he can walk fine now, so he
Yeah,
doesn't
he hasn't
have
accomplished anything. Really.
he like spectacular.
He's overcoming like a decade of self-doubts and like his legs aren't just going to snap back. All right. Like it's not just like, oh, I didn't walk for 10 years. Oh, look at me. I can jog.
Was it 10 years?
I don't know. It was a while.
I think it was 4.
I did find that scene where so again, we're kind of jumping around,
What
but
happened? So
That's true.
Yeah.
so anyway, we should probably stick to kind of following through, but so, you know, he tells everyone like, you know, we're going to go get a boar or whatever. And he's very commanding, right? Like that's the thing about Locke is like, he hasn't said or done much. So you listen when he starts because you're like, okay, well, he has something to say now and he's kind of kept to himself and he's got all these knives and he's very capable.
You can whittle a whistle and
That is impressive, though, to whittle a whistle.
I find that more impressive than the boar thing. Anyone could hunt a boar.
Well, clearly, Michael couldn't.
Don't.
Michael can't.
have you seen videos of boars attacking people at gas stations?
No.
Why gas station?
Well, that's just the video I saw. It's like this person pouring gas. This boar just ran over this guy.
This is a piglet. It's a baby, right?
Which, by the way, is horrifying and makes me so sad.
Why?
It's a baby.
If it didn't want to be hunted, it shouldn't be made of things that are delicious.
That's
all right?
true. So we've lost all of our vegan listeners at this point. So, but I mean, it is impressive. But it's such, and it's that like, that, what's the word I'm looking for? That contrast between leaving on that note. And then that first scene.
Well, and it's interesting that the first flashback we get of him, it's still sort of like a switcheroo kind of thing where he's talking all militaries like speak.
Who is it that says, is it Charlie that's like, who is this guy? Or someone says like, who is this guy? And then you get this like scene where he seems like this like CIA or military operative. And
like,
you're like,
G11, I think was his name, right? Yeah.
And you're like,
Delta is a go or whatever he says. And then it's like, whoa. And then I need the TPS report.
And then basically it's Rory.
Yeah.
Interesting fact about that scene, though, that I'm sure everyone knows, is that when he's using the calculator, it does make the monster noise.
Yeah.
Right? When it fades out? Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The
So a
adding
little bit of...
Do we have that noise?
No.
Different one.
My son?
No.
But it's like an adding machine.
It's like the...
Yeah.
Because the like ticket tape or whatever comes out of the thing.
No, it's really cool. And it's just like that attention to detail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for his flashbacks, we get the first one in the office where he's working. You see he's just like this paper pusher. And I think that's where the original title of Lord of the Files came about, because he was just this like kind of generic office worker.
I love that title, and I really want to know if there was like some sort of issue with it, because it's better than Walkabout.
I prefer Walkabout, personally.
Tell us in the comments below if you prefer Walkabout.
Walkabout or Lord of the Files.
I like that the minute that someone like kind of disagrees with you, you go, oh,
Tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
Well, I just want
I need to
everyone
rally and
agree.
I want public support. This is an outcry. I want an outcry of public support for my opinion, please.
Amanda needs that confirmation.
constant validation.
You know
From
who
people
doesn't
I
need
don't even know.
validation?
Yeah.
John Locke doesn't need validation.
I disagree. He needs it from Helen.
Not anymore.
To me,
Hell of a
that's
bitch.
actually the most depressing part.
Oh my
Same.
The way he's treated at work, like I'm like, okay, like
People, there's shitty bosses.
There's always
everywhere.
office
he's
bullies.
really got a friend that plays with him, and but that's
Play date, yeah. Every lunch hour play date.
That scene in the bed, and again, we're kind of pop. So, what is there another scene before that we should talk
I
about?
think that's.
It's just the
I think that's
the
the
one in
next
the
one.
cube, and then the one in
the lunchroom where Randy's a
Right.
dick, and we kind of talked about that with the.
And then it's the where he's talking to Helen.
And to me, that's the saddest part. Like to me, that's just.
Like I get you can't walk and you're in a wheelchair, but you could throw away a lot of those empty food containers. Like, come on.
He probably just does it all at once, man. Give him a break. We'll get to it.
No,
There's
but it is
no
very
excuse
sad.
for messiness of that level.
You can just put it in like a garbage bag, and then
Yeah, but then he'd complain about the garbage bag laying around.
yeah, but I'm sure they
might
could put
not
the
have
garbage
seen it.
bag by the door or something. Get it.
My
in-
concern wasn't so much the cleanliness of the apartment as much as the fact that he, clearly, and don't get me wrong, I am not sex shaming anyone or like whatever, like absolutely call in to whomever, like please do, right? Like he clearly utilizes those phone services that Evangeline Lilly was always advertising.
Live links.
Yeah, there it is.
But
Well, we're gonna post that commercial.
but what bothers me is this, like clearly he's made up like a persona for her.
Yeah, he's a bit delusional
Yeah.
in in the reality of their relationship.
Yeah, and like, just it is what it is. Like, great, call those women and do what
Exactly.
you want to do. But like, that part was like,
when he's almost in disbelief that she thinks of him as a customer.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, ouch.
like I would have been very concerned if my sex work or sex work adjacent, like it's disturbing when a client or someone you have that relationship with is like, I bought us tickets to Australia. It's like, no, dude, you don't buy tickets for her to Australia. That's creepy.
Yeah.
Like that's unsafe.
And that crosses like a weird line.
Big line cross. Yeah, exactly. And interesting note though about the machine that he's using while he's on that bed. Apparently it's some sort of medical machine that helps stimulate muscles.
Okay.
And they put that in there because they weren't still 100% sure how he was going to be able to walk again. That hadn't been decided. So this was sort of, they could kind of go back to this and be like, was it a coincidence or was it the island?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But
it's the latter.
is it? Is it?
It might be both.
Maybe it's both.
But that's an interesting thing because I think anyone who has any sort of understanding of the show, so I think anyone who would be listening to this other than like our family, will have some understanding that the show does have a mystical or sci-fi component to it. So it's kind of interesting to think about that because you have to wonder, like, had, you know, because you don't talk to, I've never talked to Carlton Cuse or Damon Lindelof.
Really?
I wish.
Wow.
I'm a huge
Call
fan.
him up. Let's get him on the
talked to them.
show.
You talked to
Yeah,
them?
many times.
Yeah, Theresa, you've talked to them, right?
Not only this, but I am a huge Leftovers fan. So call me up, buddies. I'm willing to talk about this and some of your more recent work. Watchmen, like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's some quality work done by these gentlemen in some way or another for the last 20 years. But
And is not fangirling by any means. Right now.
not at all. But
They're like, well, we actually felt that the character of Kate was probably our best
favorite,
work.
best
yeah.
work.
Damon Lindelof's like, Kate's actually modeled off my mother. I'm like, oh, I destroyed that connection for us. Sorry about that. But no, I think it's very interesting because you have to wonder, like, these two gentlemen have talked about how they kind of had a vision for the show almost from day one, but had they, with that information that Kip's telling us, had they completely committed to that level of sci-fi, and was it because they weren't sure they wanted to go that way, or was they getting some pushback from the network?
Yeah, I kind of feel like there probably was a bit of pushback
Yeah.
from the network, and there was maybe some notes to rein them in a bit
Yeah.
on the sci-fi aspect. They're like, this is prime time, you guys. You got to rein it in a bit, not be so wacky. But
Yeah.
they prevailed in the end.
But it's just,
I love the
that's
wackiness of the show.
Oh,
And
totally.
that's an interesting little bit of information for that reason.
Yeah. So, and then the last flashback with Locke ties into essentially the boar hunt, where the boar knocks them down. Locke is winded. He calls Kate Helen. Awkward.
And then stares at his feet.
Yes, another little foreshadow. No, hint, I guess. More like a hint.
Because he does it at the beginning of...
Yeah, he wiggles his little toes.
yeah.
Yeah, so then he gets knocked down, and then we go into his final flashback of him in the travel office trying to do his
Walkabout.
Walkabout.
Dude, tell me what I can do!
That was sad,
That was sad.
but also
Oh, God, so sad. For the record, I can't hear any of the sound effects. I get to hear...
You're going to really be sad you didn't hear that one.
Yeah.
It's your favorite. It's like what's the one thing? Okay, Rory, what do you think the sound effect would have been? It's the one thing that Locke says or that you love. A little clip from that. It's a little sound bite from Locke. What do you think it would be?
Like, of all
It's
this
a
stuff?
quote.
Yeah, it's a Locke.
It's a Locke quote.
This is the one I sent you?
Yes.
Yes!
You sent him a sound bite?
Well, I just asked him, we'll cut this up, but I just texted him like, hey, what are some things Locke says a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to get sound bites for the
Yeah.
board. And then here's the other one. This was another Rory suggestion.
It's never been easy! It's never been easy!
So there's two. So what are they?
Well, one's probably It's Never Been Easy. Yeah, that's definitely one, because that's a very iconic line.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't remember being so angry.
Very angry.
Yeah, it's very intense.
Intense. I don't know if angry. The clip makes it sound angrier than it
So I
is.
love that. And that's really this. We'll talk about this when we get into our special
spoiler section.
Patreon only section.
Spoiler.
But that scene that last quote comes from is so good.
Oh, that's definitely like one of the quintessential, like, Jack Locke.
But like to me, that
Scenes.
is like the scene, like not even just for the show, but that's how we should all feel, right? Like that to me is like just permeates like beyond the show.
So
But-
good.
So what's the other one then? The one from this episode.
Well, you can't, don't tell me what I can't do,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, that final scene with the score and the music was just so impactful
And when you finally realize
with
that
the reveal.
the reveal, and then all kind of looking back at how he,
Yeah.
and you see all of those moments in a different light.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
It's beautifully
Including
done.
the dirty apartment, yeah.
Well, you don't see that one in
But you do. It is beautiful, and the fact that he is capable. He does. They think he's dead, right? Like Kate
Yeah.
says, like, well, the monster was going towards him, like he's gone, and everyone thinks he's dead, and he comes back with that boar.
little presumptuous of Kate,
I agree.
considering the monster was literally over top of her and she's alive.
That's why I mean, it's a lot of Kate has a lot of assumptions, but also like, did you know, like it was headed for him. Do you know if the monster changed
She was
directions?
like, no one could have survived.
It's like, okay, all right.
Except for
calm
you,
down.
Kate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Guys, I think you're being a little harsh towards Kate. I think you need to rein
No,
it
I
in.
think what you meant is we're not being harsh enough. So yeah.
You're not saying she's literal human garbage.
Kate, the monster, doesn't even want to kill you. That's how the
Actually,
monster
Kate,
doesn't
in this
even
case,
like you.
you're the monster.
Like, you're not even worthy of being killed by the monster, Kate. Anyway, no, but that is like, he comes back, he's got the boar, it's a great scene, and then yeah, we get and it is beautiful. Like,
But wait, what leads Jack and Kate, I guess, to find Locke in the bushes?
A man
Yeah.
in a suit,
The White Rabbit.
in a black suit.
Edits.
Anyway,
Edits.
stop saying that. I'm trying to get one in that we don't have that in. Oh my god, you can do two.
still figuring this out.
For some reason, at the end of it, there was just wow.
I like that one.
Okay, that is too much fun.
I think you're going to find that Locke's character is more about the entire series as opposed to just one episode. It's very hard. Like when you're seeing some characters, like you're talking about like Claire, right? Like, all
You
right.
could see his face right now. It's very dismissive.
Yeah, all right. Oh, she's the cute pregnant girl. Great. Yeah. Okay. And sorry, it's the stupid redneck racist, whatever. But Locke isn't really like that. He's more than what he portrays himself to be in one episode or even in one season. And I think there's a lot more to his story, and it's hard to speak about him spoiler free without being like sort of, having your legs broken in the conversation.
I would agree that he's more nuanced for sure. And I know what Rory means when he says it's hard to talk about him in a fulsome way without ruining a lot, because there is a lot to him and his character development. There's some characters who like don't develop in that way, and you can kind of, I wouldn't say they're one note, because all of the characters are actually pretty well written, very developed, well acted.
Nikki and Paula, right?
But I do think that it is hard to discuss Locke in kind of a vacuum of this episode, but it's a great introduction to a character that is going to become very important to the overall development, mysticism, everything.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why it's remembered as one of the great episodes of the whole series, because it was that intro to Locke, who becomes a very integral character and a very like complicated character as well.
Wasn't there something called the Walkabout effect, where like people watching the show, once they watch Walkabout, they're like, okay, now I'm hooked on the show.
I'm hooked. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Theresa?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. But I will say, in
Great.
terms of like a blank slate, like for me, this episode isn't Locke getting like a blank slate. It's him getting to finally be the person that he wants to be, as opposed to him starting over. I think that all of his experiences and him, I mean, one thing that I always wondered is like, when did you learn how to throw knives? Like, when did that happen? Was it before you were, in a wheelchair? Was it after? Like, I don't know. But it's clear that from this point on, he's the man that he is, or he's becoming the man that he wants to be, and always thought he was able to, that he could be, but like couldn't, because people were telling them that he couldn't. He had a shitty job. And yeah, so for me, it's not a blank slate. It's a, just coming like almost
Like
but for
a
like an older man.
reconciliation
Yeah.
of who
Yeah.
he thinks he is. and
Coming
who
into his
he
own.
is.
Yeah.
I also just have one final thing. For the fourth time in a row, they reiterate they were 1,000 miles off course.
What with less diagrams? Or,
No, at least no
dioramas.
dioramas. There was
no-
no
No
Leaf
airplane
plane.
leaf, yeah.
or rocks or flaming sticks.
But
It was
just in
here.
case,
Just in case.
Australia's here.
Yeah.
It's like,
in
okay.
case you didn't know that there was a plane and an ocean, and then they're 1,000 miles off course.
And they're looking for them in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack, for that. Another explanation. Well, we're going to go into a couple of our fan favorite segments, and Theresa is going to lead us off with which one are you going to do first, Theresa?
I don't know. Which one would you like first?
Let's do rankings.
Okay.
And then we'll hear your thoughts as you watched.
Okay. So I'm sure in a surprise to literally no one, coming in 14th place is Michael with minus 100 or 750 points. Then we have Shannon with minus 700 points. Kate, minus 315. Locke, minus 266. Jen and Walt are tied for, I guess, 9th place with minus 30. Sawyer is the last person in the negatives with minus 5. And we have Boone with plus 35. Jack, plus 40. Sun, plus 55. Hurley, plus 85. And then rounding out our top 3, Saeed with 90. Charlie with 95. And Claire with 200.
Oh, whoa.
And Kip had called that.
Yeah, but I will say there is an honorary first place for the very first time in this series, which goes to Rose for giving us finally like the other side of it. And for, like I said, that when she says they're probably thinking the same thing about us, like 100%.
She wasn't in your ranking at all other than
No,
honorary
because
spot.
she's not really been like she's not in a
not
lot
a
of the
main.
same. Yeah.
No.
But because of that one scene, she takes an honorary first place.
And I know we don't usually ask too many follow-up questions because the mystery of the rankings is really where they hold their power. I just have to ask one follow-up is why is Sun so high?
Sun is high.
Let me guess. The aloe trick.
That is a big one, honestly. That and just being willing to take on, like, I'm sorry, if someone saw me naked and then tried to talk to me and then tried to pass off their scent to me, I would not be so.
Essentially, you're saying the fact that she didn't just slap him.
Exactly.
Tell him to
I was
F
like,
off.
good for you for, like helping a dude out that you don't know, and watching their kid.
She clearly thinks he's very awkward and
Yeah. And like, so good for you. Like, you're all in a kind of shitty situation. And then the aloe thing, because I had no idea. I knew burns. I knew you put that stuff on burns.
well, I wonder if that really works.
I don't know. I don't really want to.
I don't have an aloe plant.
I do, but I don't want to do that to
We
them.
should for the sake of the podcast.
I really don't want to put that in my mouth.
All right.
Okay.
So how about the my favorite segment, which is your stream of consciousness while watching?
Yeah, and I realize I think something that I should probably do in the future is maybe be a little bit more descriptive as to like what I'm reacting to, because
no.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
That's what makes it
That's
great.
why it's hilarious.
Okay. Well, all right. So it starts with, I feel like everyone on the show has really pretty eyes. Also, are those your shoes, sir? Wait, I'm pretty sure that's Vincent. Oh, no, it's not Vincent, but Sawyer, though. Jack, that's a very tiny torch. Why don't you use his bigger one? Oh, there we go. Jack, that light is literally useless. And that's why we weren't supposed to shine the light over there. Sorry, Jack. That's my bad. Sir, Locke, you are so creepy. I'm also disappointed that Charlie asked that question. It's so obvious. But okay, Saeed, those arms, hot damn. So when you said it's too soon to tell Saeed, you meant to wait 30 seconds and then tell him. Okay. Michael, I think you have a bigger problem. Okay, what the fuck, Locke? So Jack, you're quick to make the decision to burn the bodies. When there's a food shortage, you say, well, calm down. And then Saeed has to take over. It looks like Amanda's right about you. Dear Mr. Locke, how fortuitous you found your knives, but also, what took you so long to impart any kind of help? Also, are those knives not roughly the same size as the knife you just threw? Locke's got the awkward stares down, eh? Ooh, and the zinger goes to Jack. Sorry your flirtatious attempts have failed yet again, Kate. Michael, you have a child. Let someone else go, you moron. Also, why are you choosing the person who doesn't speak English to watch your kid? Because you saw her boobies? Ask Hurley, Claire, literally anyone else. Walt, you know what? You're kind of a jackass and you're a little rude. But also, Michael, get over your obsession with Locke. That is enough. And Claire's so sweet, so why are you so rude? Also, it's only what everybody wants when you don't want to do anything, but otherwise your word is final. Shannon, you're actually the most garbage human in the world. Shannon, you are losing points at an alarming rate. Oh, Jack, Amanda was right. Oh. Wait, what are this? Look at him help. Amanda, take that. That's a minus 10 for you instead.
Whoa.
Rose, are you all right?
She on the list? What the fuck?
And soon you'll be speared by a bear and soon you'll be And soon you'll be speared by a boar and he'll no longer have a father too. So good job, Michael. All I see, Locke, is bark. I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know how to track anything. I guess I'm just a sad panda. Oh, shit, called that. Oh, Michael, you moron. Locke, did you change your shoes for this trip? Oh, wow, this guy's such a tool. Someone just call HR. What the fuck? Hey, good job using Michael's shirt instead of yours. That's the first aid way. Also, I love the don't tell me what I can't do in the flashback versus the present and the intensity that's there. But okay, how cute are Hurley and Charlie? Your ship name shall be Hurley or Charlie. Come on, guys. Also, one curly-haired person to another. How is Hurley's hair not matted at this point? What products do you have to use to keep it like that on an island with salt water? Same with Saeed. But also, Claire is so sweet. And we're still just sitting here. Okay. Anyone else wonder where the leg guy went? The dude who they pulled out of wherever whatever was bleeding? Did he die? Oh, wait, this is awkward, Locke. Oh, shit, I have no words. Whoa. Man, that's some good climbing skills. Good job. Plus 10. Also, I don't care for this monster POV. Also, Locke, why are you smiling? Also, Sawyer does have a heart. Plus 5. If someone asked me in another language, what is that? Would I show them that if I didn't know what they were saying? Also, since when is aloe toothpaste? Also, since when? Can I try? Also, shut up, Michael, you dick. You're no hero. Your loud ass mouth caused this whole situation. Even Sun talks to Walt more than you. And there's a goddamn language barrier. Oh, these idiots. Next on Siblings Were Dating, Boone and Shannon. Awkward flirting by Shannon. Oh, Jack in that forearm. Chills by Rose. They're probably thinking the same thing about us. This is the problem with some humans. Narrow-minded tunnel vision. That's the mic drop. Oh God, I forgot about that. Nope, no thanks. Wait, what you doing, Saeed? Kate, fuck off. Also, fuck off. All you have to do is put it there, Kate, and you have the gall to crack a joke after you broke it and say, try again. Get the fuck out. After 4 days of knowing a stranger, I sewed up. After a horrific plane crash, our relationship has escalated to face touching somehow. How intimate. Are we still #just friends? Kate, did you see how this happens? Are you sure? There's a lot of assumptions here. Oh, here we go again. Also, that's a lot of blood, Locke. Are you okay? But how sweet is she? Oh, and Charlie. Is that not raging hot next to that fuselage? Jack, are you okay? Oh, fuck off, Michael, again. Oh, Locke. I prefer the scar, but also what the fuck? No muscle weakness from being in a wheelchair for years? Okay, so the first time in a long time his smile doesn't look crazy. Also, how did he learn all this tracking stuff? Also, there's something so hauntingly beautiful about the wheelchair helping build the fire and then saying goodbye to the journey there. It also not being burned by itself. It's still a part of everything. Also, I don't know if I articulated that right, but well. Does this mean that he's going to start to gain points instead of lose them from now on? The end.
I know we don't usually comment on that, but it did remind me of a very important. First of all, it was hilarious. Second of all, you're right. I don't think we fully concentrated on how it was really impressive that the "don't tell me what I can't do" mirrored in the flashback, and the fact that that was a great point. And also, yeah, fuck you, Kate, and that stupid, you can just do it again.
Again, I hated that.
That's awful.
Yeah.
You had one job.
And it was obviously so bad that even as the Kate hate resident, I even had blocked that out. All right. And we've come to that time of the show where we bring in Dan, Kip's husband, to tell us about his first impressions, having been, not having watched it ever before today. So Dan, what did you think of episode 4, Walkabout?
First thing that I said to Kip was I'm getting really tired of the flashbacks because it feels like every single episode is a flashback, and I understand that they're trying to create a backstory to every character, but it just feels like it's one of those eternal flashbacks. Like, is this all the show is going to be, is flashbacks?
So you didn't like the Locke-centricness of it all?
No, actually, he's probably my favorite character so far, and his backstory is very interesting. I would say his is probably the most interesting of them all, but I just don't know how strong of a show it is if it's just relying on flashbacks to tell a story.
So what did you think, of the juxtaposition Locke's on island personality versus the Locke?
I felt they were very similar. I felt that in a way they're telling the story of maybe why he might be more distant or why he might be a bit more misunderstood than the rest of the castaways. creatures.
And what did you think happened? Looking at what happened in the woods, Kate and Michael obviously come back say dead because of the monster.
Which I think is one of the stupidest things that I've seen so far in the show, because they just assume that he's dead, but meanwhile it's very clear that he has knives, obviously knows how to use knives, and we don't see the monster, which is another thing that I don't like, is that they're really building up these monsters or these creatures a little too much. It's a little much, but I got frustrated when Kate said that, like, just matter-of-factly that he's dead, because then I knew right away that he's for sure alive, because if they say that, there's going to be this big moment where he emerges from the bush, which is exactly what happens when he comes out with the kill. And then it just made me kind of frustrated because Locke and really Jack and Saeed are the only ones attempting to do anything on this island, which is a little frustrating. And I guess Kate's going along with it because she's helping, but she's not really advancing the rescue efforts or the...
Now, do you think that's because Kate doesn't want to get rescued?
That's actually a very good point, because we know that she's running from the law, supposedly. She very well could be kind of feeling this is like a fresh start, even though they've crashed on a plane. It's a very traumatic fresh start, but it's still nevertheless a fresh start.
What do you think of Jack's leadership this episode compared to...
I feel like the producers, it was very stereotypical, because the first couple of episodes he jumps into action and is directing everyone to their places and what they need to do and how they need to be organized. And then this is the episode where they start to scratch in a little bit of that backstory. And of course he's troubled with an upbringing, and his father, like, they're having a lot of these homages to the father, and he lays the hint of his dad's a doctor and he had to follow in the footsteps. And so it came across trying too hard to advance that storyline very quickly, like in one episode. I also feel like when you're trapped on an island, the like daddy issues would probably be one of these things on your mind, especially if people are like out of food, because that finally they addressed that earlier in the episode when they finally say that they're out of the food from the plane, which I'm shocked it lasted that long, because planes don't carry that much food.
Okay, what did you think of the memorial part? That was a good little subplot, or what do you think of these little subplots that are popping?
I thought the memorial was good, because whether someone is religious or not, there needs to be closure to a very traumatic situation, and it's just kind of the Castaway's way of addressing it and being able to acknowledge that this event did happen, people did die, and unfortunately they have to move on, whether it's in ways that they maybe don't want to, they might have wanted to bury the bodies or whatever, but I thought that was a good point. But that brings me back to probably one of my least favorite things about the episode was the wild boars at the beginning, and I understand that there had to be the tie-in, but again, they try and make these wild boars as if they're like monsters at the beginning in the plane, and I just thought it was really cheesy when you had like the glaring eyes, and then it turns out it's just these wild boars. I don't know. Okay, so what episode was this? 4?
Yeah.
I would have tuned out at episode 3. Episode 4 has started to rope me back in a little bit, and that would be because of Locke's character background and wanting to find out, is he actually a secret agent or someone working with the military, or is he truly delusional and he was talking to random people on the phone as if he was a military agent.
Okay, and then what do you think next?
Probably another flashback. It'll be Saeed, because they've already laid that backstory with he finding the pictures.
You have asked son to watch your child out of all the people on the island. That's a big sticking point for us.
No, I wouldn't go to the one person that doesn't speak English and ask them to watch my kid, especially when there are other people. Like, it's not like everyone was going on this hunt, but obviously they had to advance the storyline of the Japanese couple and the language barrier.
Well, thanks so much, Rory, for being our first official guest here on Let's Get Lost. And for those of you who enjoyed listening to Rory, we will be bringing him back to talk more about Locke in the future. And if you didn't like him, let us know, and we won't bring him back to talk about Locke in the future.
We'll put a poll up. Who wants Rory back?
Or a comment down below.
Poll. Yeah, that's a great poll. Also, my agent said I'd be back for the finale. Is that the truth?
Oh, yeah. So before we go, we're just going to finish off the episode the way we always do, which is ranking this. So why don't we start with our guest, Rory? On out of 10, what would you give this episode?
Walkabout's definitely a 10. I think that it really solidifies the whole series going forward. I think it solidifies Locke as one of the pivotal characters. And I think that he's just a beautiful person in general.
I give it a 10 as well. It really is a pivotal episode of the series, and it encapsulates pretty much everything that we come to love about Lost.
You know, I would give it around a 9. I do think that it does everything that you guys have both said. And I think it's a beautiful example of the storytelling that we're going to come to see, and just the subtleties of everything, and just the attention to detail and things like that. I just don't love some of the I don't really love the Kate Michael stuff. I don't really like, I think they tried to do a little bit too much with this episode, but I think particularly the Locke stuff and the fuselage stuff is beautifully written, and Rose is beautifully written. And I think it's just a good example of what we're going to see going forward.
I give it a 10. I actually don't have as big a problem with the with a lot going on, because ultimately, like, because you have so many characters on an ensemble, there is going to be a lot going on. And I think that it's hard to have an entire episode completely focused on someone without addressing what else is happening, especially with the way that the show works. Everything that everybody is doing and the interactions that they're having has an impact down the road on the other characters and the other subplots. So I don't have a problem with that. And I think that Rose's line is the best. And I think it sets the show up really well for what we're going to see next.
The episode lost a point for Amanda because Kate was in it, right?
So she'll never get a 10.
It's because of that weird joke. She's like, try again. And Amanda was like, -1. It's done.
1,000. Thanks, everybody. Ta-ta.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Get Lost. Be sure to tune in next week wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at letsgetlost.pod. Links to our website and Patreon can be found in those profiles. Join our Patreon for only $3 a month for exclusive access and content like Spoiler Island. Be sure to get lost with us again next time. Bye!